first of all, I would like to thank all of you that have sent your condolences to myself and my family after my grandpa passed. I am dealing with everything that happens after somebody passes away for the first time, and it's almost harder than when the person is still alive and you're waiting for them to go. And I think it's because like I've done so much work on recognizing that it's my ego that was going to be upset because my grandpa physically wasn't going to be here anymore. And when people pass away, the first reaction for friends and family to say is, I'm sorry for your loss. But I wish that there was some way that we could change those words or make it not continue to bring up the fact that that person's gone. Does that make sense? Like, for every action, there has to be a reaction, right? Says Einstein, I think is who it was. Anyways. And so when somebody lives, it's inevitable they have to die. Their body physically has to die. But I 100% believe that we're all energy. And I know that energy, like, it can't be destroyed. It's like plastic. You can't destroy it. And so just because my grandpa's physical body's gone doesn't mean that he's gone, because I truly believe that his energy is still around. And in more ways than one have I been shown this since the night his body died. Y'all can call me crazy or whatever. I don't even care. I'm just gonna talk out loud because this is helping my ego. When I was sitting there in the room with him, and my two brothers were there, my mom and my grandma, and I don't know how it turned out this way, but we were all able to be there with him as he ended this journey and began his next adventure. And before it happened, we were all sitting there and we were just folding cranes and visiting. And like his breathing started to get, harder for him. And I would do energy work, and then I'd give him another piece of candy, and he wasn't able to communicate at that point, but I feel like he was communicating with his eyes. Like I would tell him that he's brave, and I would tell him, that I'm excited for him to begin his next adventure. And I was so peaceful. Like, I did not feel like crying the entire time. And I know that I have him to thank for that. But I was trying to be strong for my grandma's sake, because it would be to lose your best friend after over 60 years. And as we're sitting there folding cranes, he started getting worse. It started getting harder for him to breathe. And so we stopped folding the cranes, and we just sat there with him, and each of us had our hand on him somewhere, just to help him with good vibes and good energy, because we believe that everything is energy. And he was starting to gasp for air, and somehow at this point still, I was still dry-eyed. I didn't even feel like crying. It was really, really peaceful. And so I started flipping through the origami paper to I don't know why, and then I chose a pink, and I was as I was holding it up is when he took his last breath. And it seemed as if like the sunset came and that was it. Like that was his ride to wherever we go. But it was just simple like that. Like it was just 1 minute his body had that pink color in it, and then after I told him that his ride was here and I was talking about the clouds and the sunset, that pink color left his body and the sky got super bright and his body became a gray color. Like that color just left and he was gone. And then the sunset went away just as fast as it had came, and we all just kind of sat there for a second. But I still wasn't sad. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It was just there. We were just there, and that's what happened. And his soul or his body or whatever, like, I don't know how there could be atheists. Like, I don't know how you could not believe that there's something after here. I don't know what it is. I'm okay with not knowing what it is. I didn't used to be okay with not knowing, but I am now. And it's a lot easier for me to help my grandma and my family members who are having a rough time with it. I'm still trying to figure out and learn what words to use with them. I don't want to sound like I don't have empathy, because I do. I understand. I mean, we're all human. I know that they're hurting, but I also know that they haven't been doing like the inside work that I have been doing. And so it's not as easy for them to understand how I'm not crying and hurting. But I truly, truly believe that it's our egos that creates that. And I'm not saying I've got rid of my ego. I just feel like I'm a little bit more in charge of it than I used to be. But I'm working on figuring out what words to use so that I don't sound like I lack empathy, if that makes sense. If I just say, that's your ego talking, don't be sad. You're crazy, then don't talk to me anymore. But after we got home that night, I reached into my pocket and I realized I pulled out my crystal pendulum, and it's rose quartz, and it's that color of pink. And so I set it down on my Butterfly Express book, which is also that baby pink color. And then the light switch pole that I made for my grandpa last week, and I set all that stuff on to the Butterfly Express book so that I could take a picture. And it wasn't until after I took the picture that I looked down and it said Opa. Somehow I had covered all the words, not on purpose. And it says the journey awakens the soul. And then I put the key on there and it said secret. And I told my grandpa that he now had the key to the secret, the big secret that you only find out when it's your turn to go from here. But the way that I laid it all out on the book, the word Opa was there. And I'm really trying not to cry. I've been putting on makeup every day so that I don't cry, because then I won't mess up my makeup. But that was proof to me that he's still around. Does that make sense? Like every time that I'm almost like, this is nuts, I'm nuts for even thinking or believing any of this stuff, like something like that happens, and he shows me he's solidifies the fact that he is still around. His energy is still around. And that makes it so much easier. Yes, it would be awesome if I could just physically see him, but he hasn't been himself, like the Opa that I grew up knowing, for so many years. Since Caden was born, he had a stroke, and at that same year, and it affected the side of his body that he always used, and he did get better. He was able to walk me down the aisle at both of my weddings. Yep, 2. And he was able to talk again, and he actually even he was at that time still able to go up to Utah State and teach some classes at the beginning, I think, but I know that he still like graded papers and whatnot. I mean, my grandpa has written and published over 15 books on different aspects of folklore, and he was an English professor and folklore professor at Utah State. He was the president of the Utah Arts Council and the American Folklore Society, I think is what it's called. I mean, him and my grandma traveled all over the world, like, and he looked like Sean Connery. Like, he was just a handsome man. And so I haven't had that Opa around for a really long time. And I almost feel better now because I still have that energy of his. And so I can visualize how he used to be rather than the person who was suffering in the retirement home. And I hated that. I didn't like, I felt so bad for him, like, and I never thought that my grandpa was going to be the grandpa who was yelling and screaming all night in the nursing home. You know, like, I remember going to the nursing home to see his parents, and there was people in there that were doing that, and I was like, this is crazy, these people are nuts. Then it was my grandpa, and it was hard to see him like that. And so I do feel better now, because now when I feel his energy, I visualize the grandpa before the strokes and before the falls, and it's a lot easier to grasp. So I know this is a really long snap, and I'm sorry. I'm just not quite ready to do this on Facebook Live or Instagram Live yet. But the point I'm getting at is, I wish there was something like a different phrase or something like that we could tell people when somebody passed away, rather than "I'm sorry for your loss," because I feel like that's feeding the ego. Like, hearing that almost makes me start to cry, and I don't want to cry. I'm so happy that my grandpa is no longer suffering, and it's not that I dislike the outpour of condolences, like I said before, because it means a lot. It's really, really awesome to hear that from people from everywhere. I mean, it's almost like your birthday on Facebook, like people you don't even know, and they're like, happy birthday, and you're like, yay, I have so many friends. Just kidding, it's not really like that. It's a lot more heartfelt. But do any of you guys have any suggestions, like, on what, I mean, when somebody passes away, when a friend of mine has somebody who passes away, I try to say things like my thoughts are with your family, or something like that. I don't know if that's the right thing to say, and I am not saying that what everybody has said to me is wrong, because it's not. That's what we're raised to say, I get, like, you know, that's what we're taught, but we're taught that death is a bad. thing. And look at the color of the sky. See? There's Opa. That's a good thing. We're taught that death is a bad thing, but it's not. It's just what happens after you live. It's inevitable. It's like when you take your pants off, then your pants are off. It's not a bad thing, it's just what happens. And so we shouldn't be sorry about it. And we should help people to not be sad about it, because it's not sad. It's freaking awesome. Like, that person just got to find out the coolest and most awesome secret that you can only find out when it's your turn to go. Nobody can spill the beans. Nobody can ruin the secret or spoil the fun. That's just how it is. And I think that... Okay, I'll stop blowing up your Snapchat feed now. I just wanted to share those thoughts because it's helped me. It's continued. Look at the sky color. See, Opa's here. That's good. That lets me know that it is good that I'm sharing these with the Snapchat world. Maybe it'll help so that I can do it on a more live feed where there's possibly more people watching. Because I think that this could help more than just myself. It's so light to feel like this. Like, light as in weight. There's no weight. And it's a good feeling. And you just gotta wear makeup every day and then you won't cry. So, I'll stop now.